Our next speaker is Brett Tompkins, who will be speaking about the DiscoveryWall and creating a gateway experience for Christchurch, New Zealand. Brett is a creative producer for Gibson Group, a creative design and screen production studio specialising in the glam, tourism and television broadcast industries. Brett began his career in live theatre and dance before graduating to primetime television, where he created and directed popular factual programs in the UK and New Zealand. For the past 15 years, he has been exclusively involved in the creation and delivery of digital and traditional exhibition experiences across a broad range of subjects for national and regional museums, archives and libraries in New Zealand, Australia and the USA. Over to you, Brett.
Hello, everyone. Great to be here. I'm Brett Tompkins from the Gibson Group, a visitor experience design and content production company based in Whanganui-a-Tara, Wellington, Aotearoa, New Zealand. Gibson Group comprises of experiential designers, content producers, and creative technologists working across digital and location-based experiences for the glam and tourism sectors, as well as screen production for international broadcast television. At our heart, we're storytellers. We have just begun our 45th year in business, and for the past 23 years, we have designed and produced visitor experiences in New Zealand, Australia, the United States, and Europe. Today, I'm going to take you through a visitor experience we developed for Christchurch Libraries that transformed parts of their digital archives into a digital experience within a physical space. The DiscoveryWall is a 7-metre wide touchscreen installation greeting visitors as they enter the new Central Library located at the heart of the city. The goals were it needed to be impactful upon entry with a real wow factor that made the visitors feel connected to their city's culture and heritage. It needed to evoke pride and stir curiosity. It also needed to expose the library's digitised archives, which a lot of the public knew little about or that they even existed at all. But before I show you how it works, a quick observation about online digital archives, which will give context about why the user interface we designed is the way it is. This is a common sight when landing at an online archive. Nothing wrong with it if you're a researcher and know what you're searching for. But what if I'm a curious first-time visitor wanting to just have a play around and explore? I don't really even know where to start and what to write in. Online archives have responded to this type of user, of course, by providing curated kind of gateways using individual themes and collections. They're great, but these stories are often limited within a singular pathway that often dead ends at a couple of photos. What we required was a different type of user experience, something that allowed for serendipitous discovery. Also, when it comes to telling the story of the culture and heritage of a city, you soon realize that it's all a bit of a hot mess. Everyone has different perspectives and memories and are attracted to different time periods, aspects, and places within their city. Instead of that being a hindrance, we saw this as an opportunity to create a user interface that takes this hot mess to the extreme. What we created was a sprawling cityscape of Christchurch, made up of over 1,000 cut-out hero images and videos of buildings, streets, landscapes, events, and people. This cityscape allows the visitor to move in any direction and target what is of interest to them. They are in total control of the journey. Behind the primary interface is a whole lot more functionality that then allows you to drill down deeper. Here's a short video of how it all works.
The DiscoveryWall allows you to explore a virtual Christchurch cityscape with just your fingertips. Simply touch the screen and move your finger in any direction to get started. To learn more about any of the images you encounter in the cityscape, tap the image to open a preview window. Tap inside the preview window to discover more information. Touch and drag this icon to move the window to your preferred height. You can scroll through related images here, or tap on a tag to browse other images that share a similar theme. You can add your own thoughts or comments about any piece of media too. You can also share an image by using your phone to scan the QR code or by entering the URL address directly into your browser. On each edge of the screen, you will find a menu icon. From here, you can use the search tool to call up images using suggested search terms. Or begin your search by selecting an area to browse images from specific communities. Select Postcard to create a memento of your DiscoveryWall visit to send to friends or family. Drag the cityscape to create the background you want. Type a short greeting across the front of your postcard and a longer message that will appear in your postcard's email. Select Guestbook to record a short video message. Make sure to look up at the camera to get the best angle. You can also browse video messages left by other visitors. Contribute gives you information on how you can upload your own images to the DiscoveryWall experience. We hope you enjoy exploring Christchurch on the DiscoveryWall. Thank you for watching.
Please note, the experience is not just the interactive wall. There's also a mobile wall that has the same experience on a 75-inch touchscreen that is used for community outreach. And there's also a public-facing website, more traditional in its structure, where users can access the content from home and upload their own images and stories. From a hardware perspective, it is pretty simple. We built a structural steel frame and then hung three 98-inch screens off that with a specialist non-reflective glass and IR touch frame allowing multi-touch in front of that. Finally, cameras and microphone pods are hung above. Under the hood are Apple Mac computers that drive the screens and show control systems and are all networked back to a back-end database. There's a content management system which allows the library curators to upload new content and add tags and location metadata and whatnot, and moderate contributions by the public from either the wall, mobile wall, or website. And all three instances sync back to that centralized database. The content management system also provides analytics. To date, we have registered over 44 million touches with 2.5 million windows open and around 1 million instances of visitors exploring deeper into the media widget layers. Finally, there is some editor software we use to help us build the cityscape. We can place individual alpha images and videos into the landscape and move them into the right composition. The editor is also great for allowing us to update the interface to keep it fresh. Now, part of this presentation was to speak about digital transformation. I can't speak for Christchurch City Libraries, but I can speak to the digital transformation and where to next for this experience. The DiscoveryWall is in fact the third generation. The first was the award-winning installation we completed in Copenhagen, Denmark in 2010. Called Wagen, the wall, it was in a 40-foot container that traveled around the city. The second generation was for the city of El Paso in Texas. And of course, being Texas, they wanted it to be bigger than Copenhagen. That resulted in a massive 11-meter exterior touchscreen at the entrance to the museum. Now, to be honest, the first iteration, Copenhagen, was seat-of-your-pants stuff. We were really pushing the boat out on both the user interface experience and what was technologically feasible from both a hardware and software point of view. However, we had an amazing client that pushed us to create the vision, and she didn't blink at the challenges and the failures. She had the courage, tenacity, and mana to stand up to the naysayers. For El Paso, it was the opportunity to correct mistakes, to simplify the experience from the first version, which had everything in the kitchen sink in it, if I was being honest. And for the DiscoveryWall, it was about kind of rebuilding and refinement of certain aspects. The content management system we rebuilt to be really user-friendly. And we worked out a better way for the hardware installation that now allows us to do a similar install in under 5 days. So where to now? In the past decade, web technology has advanced so much that it is now feasible to create the full experience online. For the past 6 months, we have been working with our El Paso clients to do just that, and we are very close to being able to launch the full 3D cityscape experience online. The next step is to reconfigure the physical experience to use the web-based approach, thus allowing online and physical to work off the same technology platform. Thank you for listening, and I will now hand back to the facilitator so I can respond to any questions you may have.
Hello, and thank you so much, Brett, for that fantastic presentation. It was wonderful to see the digital wall in action. We've got 5 minutes for a general conversation, and we're joined with Craig, Sarah and Brett. And I'd like to open up and ask you all to talk a little bit about a few things actually that really resonated with me with your presentations, about building trust with people to share their stories, how we create agency for people to share their stories and have that engagement and that dialogue and that trust in that the journey. I'm also fascinated by surfacing unusual data, and maybe if we get you each to respond to some of those elements in the next 5 minutes. So please, how would you, in the context of what you talked about, trust, agency and unusual data, and digital transformation, of course. Who wants to start?
I would like Craig to start and talk about the agency of getting that, of people getting to share those stories.
That's what was going through my head in terms of those things that spoke to you, Monika. I think it was really front and center for the National Museum and for the project team specifically to ensure that users had agency over their stories, because what we're talking about in the context of bushfires and the COVID pandemic is trauma. And so there was a really strong acknowledgement that undertaking this kind of work and doing it in real time as much as you can meant that there was the potential to re-traumatize and harm people along the way as they were reliving experiences, which is why we went for the crowdsourcing model, because people do have agency over their stories. They can decide if, how and when to share their stories. And just in comparison to some of the other projects that we were seeing in Australia, where a lot of museum organisations were simply collecting stories, that's why we decided to present them back, because passive engagement, as we know, is just as important as being like someone who is confident enough and willing to share such a deeply personal story. I will throw over to other people because I know we don't have a lot of time, but there's something to think about maybe.
Thank you.
I'd like to mention something about, like, with the discovery wall with the agency. I mean, the actual experience itself, there's not a lot of agency given to the visitor in its initial creation. It is a curated experience. But what it does allow is, through that experience, to give them agency to contribute. And the idea really in that hot mess is it kind of allows people to kind of know that any part of what they want to contribute is valid. And it doesn't really matter. El Paso is a really good example where we've got loads and loads of people putting up their weddings and beauty pageants for some reason, and all sorts of things. So it's very, very interesting in the different types, from Copenhagen to Christchurch to El Paso, how different communities are actually engaging with it and what they're contributing. It's really, really interesting. They're very different.
And just to respond to the idea of agency as well, I guess with Storybox, we're actually deliberately intervening in an environment where people don't feel like they generally have agency. So the kind of use of screens outdoors is it's just selling ads. It's very commercial space. So the idea that there could be a collaborative shared space for storytelling, it takes people a while to understand that. We did surveys where people, there was 6% realised that they could contribute to the Storybox at one point, because the expectation is that this is not a collaborative environment. And I guess that's what we want to change. It's all about definitely crowdsourcing, but also making it easy for people to share a story. So I guess the formats around are quite important to promoting that sense of agency. Anyone can write a tiny story, anyone can share their perspective. So yeah, I guess it's been very deliberate on our part how to promote that sense of agency around storytelling in the community.
One other thing to say is also actually it's really important to digital things is the programming you put around it to facilitate that.
Right. So I'm just thinking about each of the case studies, and I wish we had more time because we could. I've got so many more questions, but for each of the case studies, they have an outdoor element, and so how does that break down boundaries as well in 19 seconds or so?
Outside of social media silos.
I think I totally agree with you, Sarah. One of the greatest things about our experience is you can have 30, 40 people contribute, participating at the same time. And to me, that really is social interaction.
Yep. And Craig, last comment?
Oh, no, I just think all these projects are really exciting, and they're not only engaging audiences, but they're progressing this idea of democratization and access. And I think that's beautiful.
Thank you so much. I really wish we had more time to talk more. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you, Craig, Sarah, and Brett. Really appreciate your time. We're about to take a 10-minute break for afternoon tea. Hope all delegates and speakers can stretch their legs, have a cup of tea, a glass of water, and we'll see you back here at 2:55 Australian Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Thank you so much, everyone.